Hello, Miss Posner is here with another story. Today, I am going to read another one by our author, Julia Donaldson, who we did our author study on way at the beginning of the year. And I did another read aloud by her where I read The Gruffalo. She also wrote the book, Charlie Cook's Favorite Book, and The Snail and the Whale, and a few others that we read in class. So I remember friends really liked this one. I read it to my children as well this week, and they loved it, so I figured I would read it to you. So I'm going to read The Spiffiest Giant in Town by Julia Donaldson and pictures by Axel Scheffler. We remember that the author does what? Author writes the words, and the illustrator draws the pictures. Okay? Let's review our parts of a book really quick. What part is this? This is the front cover. Then we have this part, which is the spine, which holds the book together. We have the back cover and the title page. The Spiffiest Giant in Town. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of spiffy clothes, so he bought a spiffy shirt, a spiffy pair of pants, a spiffy belt, a spiffy striped tie, some spiffy socks with diamonds on the side, and a pair of spiffy shiny shoes. Now I'm the spiffiest giant in town, he said proudly. Do we remember what the word spiffy means? It means like fancy. He's the fanciest giant in town. He has all new, nice, fancy clothes. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the sidewalk stood a giraffe who was sniffling sadly. "What's the matter?" asked George. Do we remember what he's going to give the giraffe? Let's see if you remember. "It's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf." What's he going to give him? "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his striped tie. "It didn't match my socks anyways," he said, as he wound it around and around the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down, I'm the spiffiest giant in town." He's so happy. George came to a river. On a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. "What's the matter?" asked George. "That's my sail," said the goat. "It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his new white shirt. "It kept coming untucked anyways," he said, as he tied it to the mast of the goat's boat. It made a magnificent sail. "Thank you," said the goat. George strode on singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, my shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat, but look me up and down, I'm the spiffiest giant in town." So now he gave his tie to the giraffe and his shirt to the goat. George came to a tiny ruined house. Beside the house stood a white mouse with lots of baby mice. They were all squeaking. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's our house," squeaked the mother mouse. "It burned down and now we have nowhere to live. I wish we had a nice new house." Oh, he's going to cheer them up. Do you remember what he gives them? "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his shiny shoes. "It was giving me blisters anyways," he said, as the mouse and her baby scrambled inside. The shoe made a perfect home for them. "Thank you," they squealed. George had to hop along the road now, but he didn't mind. As he hopped, he sang to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. But look me up and down, I'm the spiffiest giant in town." He's still so happy. George came to a campsite. Beside a tent stood a fox who was crying. "What's the matter?" asked George. "It's my sleeping bag," said the fox. "I dropped it in a puddle. I wish I had a warm, dry sleeping bag." What do we think George is going to give the fox? He has a shirt left. He has pants left. I think he has socks left. "Cheer up," said George, and he took off one of his socks with the diamonds on the side. "It was tickling my toes anyways," he said, as the fox snuggled into it. "It made a very fine sleeping bag." "Thank you," said the fox. George hopped on, singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse." Do you notice they all rhyme? "One of my socks is a bed for a fox. But look me up and down, I'm the spiffiest giant in town." George came to a big squishy bog. Besides the bog stood a dog who was howling. "What's the matter?" said George. "It's this bog," said the dog. "I need to get across, but I keep getting stuck in the mud. I wish there was a safe, dry patch." What's he going to give now? It looks like he has a shirt, a belt, pants, and one sock and shoe. "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his spiffy new belt. "It was squeezing my tummy anyways," he said, as he laid it over the bog. "It made an excellent path." "Thank you," said the dog. The wind started to blow, but George didn't mind. He hopped on, singing to himself, "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. My shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of my socks is a bed for a fox. My belt helped a dog who was crossing a bog. But my pants are falling down. I'm the coldest giant in town." Suddenly, George felt very sad and shivering and not at all spiffy. He stood on one foot and thought, "I'll have to go back to the shop and buy some more clothes," he decided. He turned around and hopped all the way back to the shop. But when he got there, it was closed. "Oh no," cried George. He sank down onto the sidewalk and a tear ran down his nose. He felt so sad as all the other animals he had met on his way home. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bag with something familiar poking out of the top. George took a closer look. "My gown," he yelled, "my dear old gown and sandals." George put them on. They felt wonderfully comfortable. "I'm the coziest giant in town," he cried, and he danced back home along the road. Outside his front door stood all the animals he had helped. They were carrying an enormous present. "Come on, George," they said. "Open it." George untied the ribbon. Inside was a beautiful gold paper crown and a card. "Look inside the card, George," said the animals. George put the crown on his head and opened the card. Inside it said, "You gave your scarf to a cold giraffe. Your shirt's on a boat as a sail for a goat. Your shoe is a house for a little white mouse. One of your socks is a bed for a fox. Your belt helped a dog who was crossing the bog. So here is a very fine crown to go with the sandals and gown of the kindest giant in town." I love that ending. He was such a wonderful, kind friend to all the animals in this story. I really love this one. Well, thank you so much for listening, friends. I hope you enjoyed this book. I'm going to have more books for you to hear and listen to this week. So I hope you have a great day and hear lots of great stories. Bye.